From 16 down to 12, the NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol just got done, and we now know who the 12 guys advancing in the playoffs are. Let's talk about everything we saw tonight in Bristol and more in this episode of Running with the Pack. Alright, so as I said, I just got done watching the NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol Motor Speedway. I actually live streamed it right here on the channel. A lot of you guys were a part of that. That was an amazing stream, but I'm not here to talk about the stream. I'm here to talk about the race that we saw. So, real quick, I just want to start off by talking about the race for a brief moment as a whole. So, we had a total of only 6 cautions and 10 lead changes, but there were a lot of people who we may not have necessarily expected to lead laps who led a lot of laps tonight. Corey LaJoie leading a career high 48 laps in the race. So Corey LaJoie leading a ton of laps early on. That was exciting to see. Got up there on strategy, but he managed to hold his own, and honestly, he qualified top 10 as well. So nothing to really be ashamed of for Corey LaJoie in that driving the number 7 car. He's got that multi-year deal. I just saw the confirmation. They did officially sign Zane Smith or Trackhouse signed Zane Smith to a development deal, which will probably include being leased out to the Spire Motorsports team here in the coming week. So we're just kind of waiting to see that one be official. But yeah, so that was a big one that was a big news thing that I saw as I was getting everything together. But so Corey LaJoie leading a ton of laps. Ty Gibbs leading a lot of laps and possibly looking like he was on track for maybe a first career win. Ultimately comes up a little bit short of that, and we'll talk about that when we talk about when we talk about the guys who finished inside of the top 10 here tonight. But, leading, 102 laps or something like that, I think I have written down over here. Yeah, glad to see those two drivers. Especially wanted to make sure I shout out LaJoie because he didn't have the best of finishes at the end of the day, but he had a very strong race car, and honestly, that just shows some good progress going forward, which I'm starting to think he may have made the right choice with sticking with that team and what they've got going on right now for the future with the number 7 car. So, over here on the side of the screen, as you guys saw during the live stream, I have got myself the top 10 over here on the side of the screen over here for you guys to see. We're just going to talk about some of the top finishers here. I might give a shout out to 1 or 2 people a little further down, but for the most part, we're talking about these top 10 here. So, Denny Hamlin, big win for him. Gets him a few extra playoff points, really vaults him into that conversation. I think he might be the new 1 seed going into this round. I haven't seen the point reset yet. We'll have to wait and see that in the coming days. But Denny Hamlin, big win here. Gets himself some more playoff points to try and help him carry himself through the next couple of rounds. Always a big deal when you can get a win, especially when you can beat a championship contender like Larson and Bell to do so. Larson, he fought very hard, led about 20 laps, but ultimately came up just a tiny bit short here in the race today. So ultimately, he wasn't able to do enough to win the race for Kyle Larson. But he has a solid finish, and he will be moving on to this next round of the playoffs. Nobody was really surprised by that one. He won at Darlington, so he was locked in weeks ago. But so he gets to go to the next round. Talladega, not his best track, but hopefully he can still advance, and he's got a lot of points to try and advance through the round of 12. Christopher Bell showed a lot of speed, especially early on, leading from pole in this race. Christopher Bell ultimately comes home 3rd place, though. Again, another solid day for a team that was really looking for some momentum to lead into this to lead into the round of 12 and to potentially start making a push for the playoffs to try and make a deep playoff run. Speaking of teams looking for the momentum to continue rolling, Chris Buescher has been on a roll the last month and a half. Chris Buescher now finishes inside the top 5 here at Bristol, where he won last year, going to Texas, to his home track next week. I mean, hey, Buescher could end up rolling, and then you've got a super speedway where Roush has been very good in the past, and then you've got the Charlotte Road Course, which he's been a pretty good road racer over his career, especially recently in his career. So Chris Buescher could be ready to roll right into that round of 8. We'll have to wait and see, but very good day from him, finishing 4th here. Ty Gibbs being the best non-playoff driver I mentioned earlier, led a ton of laps, about 102 of them. Comes home 5th. Honestly, he's just looking for some good days here to learn and be ready to try and make a playoff push for next season. Speaking of playoff pushes for next season, Michael McDowell will be a threat if he is not taken seriously already. He comes home 6th place today, his first top 10 of the playoffs, despite qualifying top 10 in all 3 playoff races to start the season, or to start the playoffs. So, finally it manages to bring home a good finish. Ultimately, though, that good finish, not quite good enough to make up for the bad days the last couple of weeks, and he will be missing out on the next round of the playoffs. Chase Elliott still looking for his first win of the season, but running well is kind of that first step. Obviously, Charlotte Road Course is kind of the big highlight on his calendar, getting ready to look for that potential next win. So, Chase Elliott, he's out the playoffs. He's looking forward to that. Then you've got Brad Keselowski, the other RFK driver, also advancing to the round of 12 here. Both Roush drivers going to the round of 12. I mean, you'd have to go back a long way to find the last time that both RFK drivers finished in the top 12 in points. But Brad Keselowski, solid top 10 finish here. Again, just trying to get that momentum going. Talladega, going to be their big moment for the Roush guys to try and build up a points gap going into the Charlotte Road Course for the end of the round. William Byron, winningest driver on the season, just kind of comes home with an average 9th place finish. Didn't tear up the car, and hoping to go to Texas and find another win. But he should be right around that top of the podium in terms of the points after the reset. But he's in the playoffs, and that's all that really matters. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the last driver inside the top 10, he ends up coming home 10th here. Not good enough to make the playoffs, but another solid day for him. Again, building towards potentially a 2024 playoff run. We'll have to wait and see, but he could be on pace for a good season again next year. We'll have to wait and see, though, but I think he said in his post-race interview his goal is to try and finish top 12 in points, because even after they're eliminated, the drivers do still have the ability to race for points, so he could potentially get all the way up to top 12 in points, so curious to see if he can do that, but yeah, that's the last driver inside the top 10. But there were a few drivers outside the top 10 that I wanted to give a quick shout-out to as well. Alright, so here we go. On page 2, a couple of the drivers I wanted to give some shout-outs to. You've got Carson Hocevar, Ryan Preece, two drivers with a little bit different stories here. Carson Hocevar filling in for Noah Gragson in the 42 car. After he got suspended and then ultimately left the team, and now has been reinstated, so he could potentially get hired. Hocevar now looking for, he's looking very good and potentially looking for a Cup Series contract for next year with the way he's running. Ryan Preece trying to earn a contract extension with his current team. He wants to stay there. The performances haven't looked that great, but I would chalk that up to the team, and we go to a short track where Ryan Preece is comfortable. Comes home with a top 15 finish. Absolutely great day for him. Bubba Wallace, we'll talk about him in a minute. Todd Gilliland, a non-playoff driver, pulls a strategy call to lead a... Did he lead a lap? No, he didn't lead a lap, but he got really close there for a little while. But, ultimately Todd Gilliland, though, comes home with with 16th place as a finish after a very good strategy call goes his way. And then you had Martin Truex Jr., who, again, we'll talk about the playoff guys in a minute, but he had an exciting day, and he didn't necessarily look for that. Daniel Suarez with a bit of a disappointing day as well for the 99 team. Ultimately, they're already out the playoffs, so disappointing days are just kind of par for the course at that point, because once you're out the playoffs, I think the disappointment feels like it's less impactful at that point, but it still hurts when you don't perform up to expectations. And Ryan Blaney survives to the round of 12. Speaking of the round of 12, for driver number 12, but let's talk about the drivers who will be making it to the round of 12. Over here on the other side of the screen, I have got the list of the 12 playoff drivers who will be moving on to the next round of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs here. So, first off, I would just want to say massive congratulations to all 12 drivers. A couple of them we already knew about. Reddick won last week at Kansas. He was locked in. Kyle Larson, as I mentioned, he won the Darlington race. He was already locked in, which left us with a few spots left to solidify. Guys like Denny Hamlin and William Byron, they were really high up in points. They just basically needed to survive the race to ultimately advance. Denny Hamlin wins it, and William Byron comes home top 10. Both obviously advance very comfortably. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, and whatnot, those two drivers specifically, having somewhat rocky days, but ultimately had enough of a points cushion built up before this race to advance. The two RFK guys beneath them, you've got obviously you got Chris Buescher, who's been on a roll the last month and a half, running very well. Certainly not a driver to overlook too much, but his teammate isn't bad either. I wouldn't count his teammate out for a potential win at Talladega next round, so both those drivers having very solid days to advance. Again, just kind of solid, very comfortably making it to the next round. Not so comfortable is pretty much everybody else on this list. Ross Chastain had a very bad qualifying effort, and I believe at one point was below the cut line to make the next round of the playoffs. Ultimately, he survives with a 23rd place finish here, and it was a rough day, but he ultimately got the win or got the playoff spot. So, some other drivers on this list. Just to make a quick note of a few of them. Okay, so now talking about those last couple of names on that list, because there was a lot of close calls here, and in particular, I'll talk about the 4 guys not shown on this list as well. But in particular, Michael McDowell, he needed to win, ultimately didn't get there, comes home 6th place, just kind of a situation where a driver needed to win, and he isn't at a team that's expected to win, so. Then you've got Stenhouse. He was another one that a lot of people kind of locked in. He was well behind the 8 ball, 20 plus points out. Essentially needed a win, and he comes up, I think, 10 points short of the advancing to the next round. So that was another one that was a little bit disappointing. And then you had 4 names fighting for the final 2 spots. You had Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex Jr. Those are the 4 names of the drivers that were fighting, and they were really the story of this race. Martin Truex Jr., around the midway point in the race, ends up going a lap down and gets stuck there as a caution as the caution flies for him tagging the fence. Because the caution was for him, he didn't get the free pass, and he ended up struggling a lap down the rest of the day. Ultimately, grits it out to avoid elimination with a 19th place finish, 5 points above the cut line. He was safe, and ultimately he lives to fight another day as the regular season champion. Now, there's 3 drivers. 2 of them, proven NASCAR Cup Series champions, including the reigning, defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, Joey Logano. He ultimately got involved in a wreck that was nothing to do with him. Corey LaJoie spun out around the midpoint in the race. Came back up the track, collected Joey Logano, Ryan Newman, and a couple other cars. I think Kevin Harvick might have gotten a piece of it too, but it didn't impact Harvick's day significantly. So that ended Joey Logano's night, and ultimately he wasn't able to hold on to enough points. He comes up 4 points shy of advancing to the round, and that makes it the first time in the knockout round format history that the reigning defending champion gets knocked out in the round of 16. The earliest elimination, man. I think, actually, wait a minute. Did Kyle Busch make... Kyle Busch made the round of 12 in 2020, right? Because he was the defending champion that had a really bad year that year, too. Yeah, I think he was knocked out in the round of 12 and then won in the round of 8. So, yeah, so there we go. And then we have the final two drivers. You've got Kevin Harvick, his farewell tour, trying to repeat what Jeff Gordon did, competing for a championship in his final season, and ultimately he comes up 4 points shy as well of catching Bubba Wallace, which Bubba Wallace advanced to that next round of the playoffs. It was a very tight window, but ultimately Bubba Wallace survives and now gets to go race at Talladega, a track he has won at before in the playoffs, to potentially try and push himself to the round of 8. He's going to need a lot of luck and or a win at Talladega to advance to the round of 8. But a lot of people had him penciled in, and honestly, I was one of them. I had him penciled in as a driver to get eliminated in the round of in the round of 16, especially after 2 rough days and not really building up the points lead he needed at Kansas to make this a race managing night for him. So, ultimately, though, Bubba Wallace, he lives to fight another day, and we will get to see him and the other drivers on this list fighting in the round of 12. But for the most part, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about from Bristol. Ultimately, this race was great. I will be disappointed to see the Bristol night race going away. It was confirmed earlier this weekend that the Bristol dirt race will not happen, and instead it will be it'll be 2 races on the concrete next year for Bristol. So a little bit sad to see that happen, but ultimately, Bristol Concrete does put on a good show almost every time we go there, and I'm looking forward to 2 good Bristol races next year. On to Texas. Yay. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you guys are new so you guys don't miss any future videos or live streams. And until next time, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next video, live stream, whatever you guys had to do for the rest of your day. Have a great day, everybody, and goodbye!